What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of For the Fowlers. I'm your host, Brandon. Got a good guest on here today. I got Ty Schenk from Dust Bowl Falco out in Oklahoma. How we doing, Ty?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm good, man. Hey, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. We'll dive into Ty's story here a little bit, but Dust Bowl Falco, just to kind of I guess touch the surface here. Ty creates custom lanyards for all of our calls out there that we're using out in the field, and he's got a bunch of different offerings, and I'll let him share about that. But before we jump into how Dust Bowl got started, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Ty?
Yeah. From Oklahoma, and I make, like you said, make custom lanyards for duck calls. And then for professional, I work in supply chain. So a little different than what I'm doing here, but yeah.
No, that's cool. So which part of Oklahoma are you in?
I am about 30 miles south of the Oklahoma City Metro. So I'm in kind of a smaller town. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And you able to do much hunting out there in Oklahoma?
As much as I can. When I was younger, I did a lot more. I don't get to get out as much as I want to, but wife, three kids, full time job, college courses, so I sneak out when I can.
Yeah, and mostly waterfowl hunting, or are you doing kind of some other game? What's your passion when you're able to get out?
Mostly waterfowl. I grew up a deer hunter, and I kind of stumbled across waterfowl by accident. I had a buddy that invited me out, and I was like, man, no, I'm not waking up at 3 a.m., getting in ice cold water, throwing a bunch of chunks of plastic out there for this little bird, these little breasts. Like, this is no, you're crazy. I'm a deer hunter, it is what it is. But he wore me down, and I ended up going and instantly hooked. There's just something about waterfowl that I don't think you get in a big game hunt. It's the camaraderie, the birds, the variety of species. There's nothing like it.
Yeah, what kind of hunting do you do most out there? Like dry field, or are you getting out in ponds? What ag fields? What kind of hunting when you're able to get out, or when your buddy took you out that first time? What's mostly going on out in Oklahoma?
So we started mostly public lakes around Oklahoma City, public land, big water, and then we picked up some private land here and there, and we kind of moved towards like government watersheds and farm ponds. And then we moved into dry fields, and that is my favorite. So dry fields and ducks and geese. That's you don't have to get wet. You don't have to put waders on. You can't beat it.
Yeah, that definitely makes a difference. I actually like some of those hunts where you go out and do a dry field goose hunt, and you can just go out there in like your muck boots and your pants whatever you wore in the rig on the way over there, you're good. But yeah, I don't know. There's something about it when every now and then when most of the hunting I do, whether it's public land like refuge, marsh hunts, or you go out to the rice fields or whatnot. I mean, it's nice having those waders, especially sometimes you trip, fall,
Yeah,
whatever. It's like, and like you mentioned, it's cold out there, for this winter sport. Yeah,
very much so. Yeah, if you don't have the right gear, you're in trouble.
100%. So out in Oklahoma, is it mostly private land, or is there quite a bit of public access? I know you touched on it just a little bit, but
Yeah.
like when you go out, do you mostly hunt public?
It just kind of depends on the birds. For us, I really don't feel like the birds are hitting your private, like your farm ponds until later in the season. Um, Probably around December, we start to cool off a little bit. Birds start migrating a little bit more. Then we really focus and hone in on public land, or sorry, private land. But early season, like teal, early duck, it's public usually, big lakes.
Yeah, and as those ducks start coming down, what are you guys seeing most in your area? What kind of birds are you guys seeing most besides the teal? I mean, I'm sure you get a bunch of mallards and whatnot, but what else do you guys getting out there?
Yeah, a ton of gadwall. We
Okay.
have so many gadwall, and I love them. I think they're beautiful. Get some spoonies, some teal, a lot of green wing teal, not very many blue wing, mallards, like you said. We'll come across some redheads, buffleheads, scop, ringnecks for sure. We get a lot of ringnecks for some reason. And the occasional canvasback and pintail. But so
Yeah,
you're in
what's
California, right?
correct? Yeah, yeah. I'm up in Northern California, so I hunt mostly the Sacramento Valley there. So we get a bunch of
A lot of
pintail. You get
pintails.
your yeah, a lot of
Oh
pintail.
man,
Yeah, yeah, a
yeah.
lot of pintail. We get a lot of teal. I mean, pretty much everything that you just listed out there. I mean, um, you do get your occasional mallards. Obviously, if you're in some of the marshes or up this Butte Sink area. Um, but yeah, a lot of teal. Depending on where you're at here in Northern California, you could also get you see a lot of divers and like the birds you were listing off. But yeah, pintail. A lot of those. And that's one of my favorite, you know, birds. I mean, I think they're absolutely beautiful, and then they taste amazing too. So
They're beautiful and they're smart. That's probably one of the smartest decoying birds I've ever hunted.
for sure, yeah, no, and they're definitely a lot of fun to pursue. There's some days where they're looking at you from miles away, probably just laughing at you, saying like, "Hey, I see you. There's no way I'm coming down there." But then there's some days where the weather's just right, or your spread's set up, and you're in the perfect hide. And I've seen them where they just are hovering over you. And up until this past year, the limit, was one. So you had to be pretty
Right.
selective. But now with three, and it's funny, in years past, we're like, man, like we could easily shoot a limit of pin, if it was, three or even, seven, we could easily shoot a limit of pintail. But something about this year, like you said, they're super smart.
Yeah.
All the times I went out, and I think even in my group, no one actually got their three pintail. So it was tough.
Isn't that funny
So,
how that changes?
oh
They
yeah,
up
man,
the
they,
limit
they
and you can't get one. Or yeah,
birds are smart, man. Birds are really smart.
very very smart.
Yeah, it's funny out here in the there's a special hunt area out here in the Sac Valley where it becomes a closed zone in late December for speckle bellies. And I always joke
Yeah.
that like these guys back at their roost or whatever have a calendar hanging up and they know exactly when that date is because they just start teasing you, because they know like
Someone gave them the
we
regs. They
yeah, we
know.
can't get after them. It's
That's
just
hilarious.
it's just like my buddies and I joke that I'm done looking for bands on these ducks. I'm convinced they're wearing wristwatches because they know when shoot light is too. You know, so yeah, no, but hey, that's what we enjoy
Definitely.
about it, and obviously,
Yeah.
working the birds, pursuing the birds, calling the birds, and that we'll obviously talk about calls and lanyards and stuff like that here in a sec. But yeah, that's awesome. What's your favorite bird? Whether to harvest, but like like hey, I really like this because it'll look great, mounted up in the home office, or maybe there's one like hey, I love just perfect bird on the table.
That's tough, man. So my first big duck was a redhead on public, and I got that mounted. And redheads, they hold a special place for me because of that memory that I have tied to it. Um, and then I love a good mature Drake greenwing. They got the little mohawk, and they
Yeah,
taste great. They might be small,
yeah,
man, but they're fun and they're fast. They're fast. They're fun to shoot.
yeah. That's awesome.
So
Yeah,
it's a
like
toss up: a green wing or a redhead.
okay, nice. That's awesome. Yeah, and I love green wing teal. They taste amazing, and yeah, like you said, a fun game to pursue for sure. So why don't we pivot over to Dust Bowl?
Yeah.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about that journey, kind of from beginning to now? Like, what made you want to start building lanyards?
It was an accident. It's kind of an
Okay,
accident.
all right.
So I'm going to take you back to 2020 during COVID. So I worked in transportation and there's strict COVID policy. We're still rocking and rolling. So if you have a fever, you get sent home. If you have any sickness, right, they're sending you home. And I ended up getting it. I got sent home for 2 weeks, and I was extremely bored. Everything's locked down. And I got the bright idea to try to build a lanyard. So I get online, I start ordering paracord, and before you know it, I've probably got like 15 lanyards everywhere. My wife is saying, "What are you doing with all these?" I'm like, I don't know. I just like making them. So I sold a few of them, got rid of that, and I used to run a page called No Coast Outdoors on Instagram. Sold a few there, and I started school, had a couple kids, life got busy, and I left it alone. And then probably 4 months ago, 5 months ago, my wife was needing to cut something, some fabric, and I said, I have a cutting board up in the attic in my paracord box. I went up there, I got the cutting board, and then I picked up like a half finished lanyard. And at this point, Dust Bowl, I'd already created the page. I didn't really have a direction with it. I just knew I wanted to do something. But when I picked up that half finished lanyard, I took it back inside. I sat in my chair, and I'm like, man, this is like, I remember how much joy this brought me and how much fun this was. I need to start this again. So then that started the journey of trying to remember all the braids and weaves and how I did it. And it took off from there. I gave a few to some church guys, started building stuff. Um, and at that same time, my buddy was getting into leather work. So things just started transpiring from there.
Um, how did you learn how to do it during like, when you were sitting at home for those 2 weeks? Was it just on YouTube or yeah? And
Yeah, YouTube.
how I don't want to like give it away where just anyone could pick up and start a lanyard business, but how difficult
Oh
was
man,
it to pick up?
I'll teach anybody. I get messages all the time. I don't hold any industry secrets. I don't have any patents. If you want to do it, man, I'll tell you what I did and give it a shot.
Yeah, yeah,
But
how
yeah, just YouTube tutorials.
yeah. Um, do you remember how long it took you to maybe make that first lanyard versus, today? Like, I'm sure you're turning and burning today, but that first one, I've never made one, so are we
It
talking
was
a few
frustrating.
days? You know,
It was frustrating. Man, probably 3 or 4 hours. Getting the length right. So on the YouTube tutorials, there's a ton of tutorials on bracelets, and so what I did, I tried to find bracelet weaves that I like, and then convert the math over to a lanyard and just try to figure out how to do it. Yeah, so probably 3 or 4 hours on the first couple designs I did. Definitely a lot faster now. Not a whole lot, but pretty significant.
yeah. So, you're obviously doing this like as a side hustle or part time. So is your time mostly taken up with like custom orders, or is there a time where you're just kind of trying to build some inventory? Kids are asleep. They, you know,
Yep. Yep.
you're just like in the garage or whatever, just working away. And, is that kind of what the model is these days?
Yeah. So especially starting out, I didn't really have a customer base, so I'm just build, to try new weaves, to try new colors, to see what will gain traction. And currently, if I don't have a custom order, I'm just making stock orders. I try to do it, 4 or 5 nights a week. If I'm not building a custom, I'm building a stock. Or if I'm not building those, I'm trying to do a new design. So I'm just trying to keep things going, keep it fresh.
Yeah. What's your most popular, I guess, offering or whatnot? What do you seem to get the most of? Like, um, is it a specific like color combo? Like, does everyone want like a camo look? I mean, obviously looking at your page and going on Shopify, like there's some pretty cool color combinations. Like there's some bright ones out there that people really like, or, I saw one like, maybe for the law enforcement guys out there, the thin blue line that you put together, that was pretty cool. So, does it just kind of run the gamut, like a lot of different, everyone has something different that they want, I'm sure.
Yeah, everyone's different. Some people like the bright colors, flashy lanyards. Some people strictly natural tones, camo. But probably one of the most popular ones, which I have one right here.
Yeah, let's see it.
like your full rope lanyard, your leather. We do these in a 3 or 5 drop, and kind of a classic traditional look.
Yeah,
But
that's
these
really
have been
cool.
really popular. And then we've also gotten into some other designs as well that we can go over.
Yeah, yeah, we'll talk about some of your
But yeah,
materials and different things here in a sec. But you mentioned kind of making these for fun, giving them away, giving to some folks at church and whatnot. But when did you realize, like, hey, like, and I know you talked about maybe a few months ago when you found that half finished lanyard, but when did you like, hey, like, this can be a business? I've already set up Dust Bowl. I'm got a little inventory here. Um, when did you realize, like, hey, I got something here?
I knew I could do it because I did it before, right? When I first started out, like I sold those 12 or 15 that I made, 20 I made, whatever it was. So I knew it was possible, but I didn't know how the consumer base had shifted. We got people like Falco or Fowler's Hide. They make an amazing product. They're on the scene now, and you've got a ton of talented people that make cables on the scene now. That wasn't really a thing back in 2020. So it's changed a lot. But I thought if I did it before, I can do it again. I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna set up a Shopify. I'm gonna test out the waters.
Yeah, I asked you before we started recording. Do you remember your first sale? But you said, "Hey, I remember when that first Shopify order that came in. You're like, oh
Yeah,
man, what do we got here?" So, what was that like? That emotion where I'm sure you got like an email alert or something.
and it took a while, right? So I had put inventory on Shopify, started sharing across socials, and it probably took like 3 weeks to get a sale. But yeah, like we were talking about earlier, you get that cha-ching sound notification from your Shopify, and you open it up like, oh, which one sold? And yeah, it's just a great feeling knowing
That's
that
a,
I'm making something that is going to go out in the blind, is going to be on someone's neck, and I'm helping people out. Because I don't know if you've been to Cabela's or Shields or Bass Pro lately, but the lanyard selection is not good.
no,
We
no,
were
it's
up in
not.
Shields a few weeks ago, and
Yeah, um, and I haven't been in the market for one for a while, but I know we talked once again before we start recording, and I'm gonna we'll get offline here, and I'll get an order in with you. But yeah, they're just almost kind of really basic, and to your point, and gosh, I don't know if we were talking about it on here, but when we were recording, but you make the kids lanyards now. And
yep,
you mentioned that those are things that you can pass on from one kid to the other, based on the quality and the craftsmanship of something custom, right? Versus just you know
100%.
they're you know I would much rather spend more money on something that's going to last and something that's higher quality than just going to a big box retailer and buying a call lanyard for $15 to $20, right? I mean, it gets the job done, but to your point, like,
Yeah, 100%.
you know um, and what I like about the custom conversation is I can say, okay, these are the calls, these are the whistles, here's what I have on mine right now, can we set
Hmm.
it up, help me set this up and all that. So
Yeah.
that's probably a good segue. Like, when you're connecting with your customers on like those custom orders, do you like consult on like what the best like the most ideal lanyard setup is like for their calls, or do they kind of tell you like, hey, this is what I run, these are how many drops I want, whatever it might be? Because I'm sure there's some flexibility, because you mentioned that leather one you normally just run three, but I'm sure with the paracord you could probably put a ton out there. I mean, I see some pictures of some guys that have like a dozen calls hanging on them. Even though they know they're going on like a goose hunt that day, they still have every duck call they've ever owned on there or whatever it might be. So, what kind of like conversations or consultation do you have like when you're developing those custom orders, or is it just like, hey, here's my colors and this is what the style I'm looking for?
Yeah. So we definitely start with style, to make sure that I'm capable of doing what they're wanting. Because there's some stuff that either I've never tried it before or I just don't have the capability of doing. But yeah, so style, and then color, and then drops. So I typically do 4 drops on like a half round style, 2 on each side. um, a traditional lanyard that comes to a point. You get your 4 drops on the side, one on the bottom, and we kind of go from there. Um, I've had guys ask for 6 drops. I've had guys ask for 2 drops. Just kind of depends on everyone. Everyone has a different hunting style, different call style. I like to
Yeah, it's
carry a
funny.
finisher,
Hmm.
chapstick, couple calls. I like to keep a lot of tools on mine,
Yeah, yeah, they might
but
have a
also don't try
dog
to make it
whistle.
super
Yeah,
heavy.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's funny. That was one of the questions I want to ask. Like, what's the most amount of drops anyone's ever requested? You know, like, hey, give me the standard 5, but then, hey, send a few extra that I can clip on myself, you know? So you see these guys that probably just have like weights hanging off them.
I don't see how they carry it around. It would
Yeah,
get on
for
my
sure.
nerves. But I think if that's how you want to carry it, man, I'm all
Yeah.
about it. They can handle it. The lanyard can, but yeah, 6 or 7. I think I did a 6 drop and then like a single drop for a finisher or a duck whistle or something. But
So,
yeah, I'll have to keep track of that and kind of see what the record is.
yeah, and not just like the custom orders that you do, but if we talk about just any of the lanyards that you create at Dust Bowl, because I mean, I assume even the ones that are kind of pre-made that are on Shopify and whatnot are still custom compared to just any one off the rack at a retailer. Um, when you are looking at those drops, like, are there different lengths? Like, what's the most like kind of ideal length there? Is it pretty standard? How does that?
I'm gonna grab one. Here's one I just recently finished. This is kind of my typical setup on like a half round hybrid, whether it be biothane or leather. So usually 2 on the side, and they're roughly, I don't know, 8 to 10 inches. You'll lose a little bit when you actually put the call on. Your barrel and your insert are usually pretty small, like smaller than that. But for like neck pieces, usually 16 to 17 inches on the neck, about 14 to 16 on the actual braid, and then standard 4 drops. I can add single drops, whistle drops, doubles that go with a clip for, like on my lanyard. I like to run my duck whistle on one of the doubles and then my finisher on one. So still a double drop, but utilizing it a little differently.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Really cool. So, you've obviously showed a couple different ones. You showed us the all leather. It looks like the hybrid one there, right? And then you have some that are 100% paracord. Can you talk a little bit about the variety of materials and what goes into kind of working those together and getting that to that finished product?
Yeah, so I mean, it kind of evolved over time, right? I started out 100% paracord, and like I said earlier, my buddy got into leather, um, and we started on that, and then we got into the leather half, like the neck leather neck piece, a half round, um, and then I did a podcast with the Winging It guys, and they had TFS Cable Works on there, and I noticed that he was doing the biothane. Never really heard of biothane. I think I saw it in like maybe some dog collars and different ways to utilize it like that. But I wanted to bring that in too. So currently we do all paracord, excuse me, all paracord or all leather or a leather neck with paracord bottom and a biothane neck with a paracord bottom. So my goal was, I didn't want to be kind of rabbit holed into one material. I want to bring in all the materials that are available to give everybody a variety.
Unless you have one on you behind you, I'm curious what that one looks like with the TFS neck. Do you have one?
Yeah, yeah. So this is the biothane right here. This is
Oh,
the brown
oh
biothane,
yeah, yeah.
a
Okay.
gunmetal D loop um, there, and then I also have a leather one. And this is actually, oh, here we go. Yeah, so here's the leather. So we use 1.25 inch water buffalo. So super durable, and big D rings there. This one has clips. So I've had requests where people, maybe you have a tote and you want to utilize the same neck piece for a tote and a lanyard. That gives you the ability to do that. Adds a little bit of length, but I still think it's pretty cool, kind of functional that way.
Absolutely. No, that's cool. Really cool. Um, right on. So, you know, when people are placing their orders, like what's something that, hunters may not think about, that you kind of got to remind them about, or, do certain, lanyards hold up better in different elements or whatnot? Obviously we don't want to dunk them, but like, leather versus all paracord or whatnot. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so thing to keep in mind, so I think we were talking about this before we were recording, but how do you wear your lanyard? Are you going to wear it on your neck? Are you going to wear it underneath your hoodie? How many calls are you wearing? The leather is a lot lighter than the paracord. So like the full rope, that thing is super light. I think it's like a third of the weight of a paracord lanyard or one of the hybrids. So a lot of people enjoy that, but it's more stiff. So, if you got this on and you're gonna have some movement, you're gonna have a little bit of a stiffer feel, which some people love. And then, on a paracord one, you're gonna get that flexibility. You're not gonna have as much that moving up your neck. So the hybrid does a really good job of being, you know, you're not feeling that very much.
Yeah, and I'm sure,
So yeah, it
especially
just
with,
depends on your hunt style.
yeah, no, that's awesome. Um, for your orders, are they mostly custom? Or are folks just going on your site or Shopify and just kind of buying existing inventory? What's kind of the breakup, if you will? Like, like, hey, I do like 50% custom orders, and that really takes up my time, or, you know, how are things looking for you there?
I'd say definitely customs take up more of the order volume. It's probably like a 60-40.
Okay.
But
And
yeah.
then how long, like what's the, obviously, you said you're doing this 3, 4 nights a week, but, um, how long, if you place a custom order, are we talking a couple weeks? How long does that normally take? What's the lead time?
We try to stay within a 7 to 10 day window. So you place your order, I confirm it, I have all the colors on hand. I'm trying to get that in the mail within a week.
Okay. Very cool.
Now, if we have to order material or if we have a slight backlog, that could be it could be 2 weeks, but we really try to stick in that 7 to 10 day window. Sometimes in a couple days. It just depends on workload.
And you do 100% of it, right? Like you don't have any help, no buddies. Is the wife? Does she get into it at all, or?
No, I mean, so when I first started out during the COVID period, I couldn't do the drops, the barrel knot. Just I couldn't figure it out. So I depended on her a lot for that. But I figured it out finally. So all the paracords me, and then like I said, like we have the TFS cable works for the biothane, so that
Yeah,
I buy those directly from him.
sure.
We partner on that, and then the leather as well. I don't do any of the leather work. I have, I don't, especially the full rope. Man, sewing that up, it's a lot of work, and I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of that. But yeah, so great partners, and then I do all the rest of it myself. But
Nice. Um, I'm curious about like your advertising and how folks can find you. But have you done any sort of like they got, what is it, NWTF going right now? Have you done any sort of trade shows locally, or any sort of events or something to kind of showcase your products, or is it mostly just kind of been online?
it's mostly been online, mostly through Facebook and hunting groups on Facebook. It seems to drive a lot of traffic. But I am a committee member for my local Delta Waterfowl chapter. So looking forward to bringing these to the banquet this year to give away to sponsor tables and to promote there, maybe for like the silent auction. And then we recently donated a couple lanyards to a men's church event, and then also to a Delta event in PA, I believe. Yeah, so we're trying to get into really want to partner with conservation groups and churches. Um, But
Yeah.
I think next year we got some shows that we want to try to get into.
Yeah, and forgive me, I should probably know this, but I don't. Like obviously Delta Waterfowl, Ducks Unlimited. I'm sure they're prevalent in Oklahoma. But do you guys have a local like Oklahoma only or something in the region there that the dollars stay there?
Not, no, not that I'm aware of. I mean, a portion of our Delta Waterfowl chapter's money stays here.
Correct. Yeah.
Delta has what they call the Waterfowl Heritage Fund. So we'll
Hmm.
do a lot of work with, like, we have a youth event coming up in March, I believe. No, end of this month. Yeah, so we have a youth event coming up where we're going to take out 10 to 17-year-olds. They're going to shoot clays, learn about species identification and fun stuff like that. Completely free event. We also tried to do some work around the WMAs and partner with the wildlife biologist and the game wardens. So whether that looks like replacing bulletin boards at WMAs or just trying to help them out. So money's
Yeah.
tight for conservation. You know how that goes. So we try to do what we can.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, and someone listening here in California might be like, no, you're wrong on that. But I feel like Delta Waterfowl is somewhat new to California. But some of the work that I've been seeing, I follow them on Instagram, and I joined Delta Waterfowl a couple of years ago when I started hearing more about them in California. But like you just mentioned, all those different projects, they do a lot of great things locally. You know, um, it's not just about the banquets and fundraising, but they also take those dollars. And I've seen projects where they redo like ADA blinds on public land, or they do like
Yeah.
these kids camps or whatnot. And those are really like those are the things that it's great. Like it's not restoring habitat and stuff like that is fantastic. Like we need that. But then also when, you can do things for, hunters in the community and stuff like that, to, make it more accessible for people. I really like that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the youth is the next generation. If we don't pour into them, uh, I can't imagine where a world where we couldn't pursue waterfowl and share this with our kids and with the next generation. So super important to keep that going.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if you can see behind me, but this is I got this at a banquet. It's a California waterfowl portrait or whatnot, and it's got the pintail up there. But that's what I was asking about, like if you guys have anything local, because out here we have the California Waterfowl Association, and they're strictly in
Okay, yeah,
California. And like I said, I belong to all the different conservation organizations, but they do a lot of stuff locally. That's great, and we kind of see the direct impact from them. So that's awesome.
yeah, that's
Um,
awesome.
so yeah, so you mentioned Facebook, Instagram, but tell my listeners that, if they want to get in touch with you, they want to buy a lanyard. How can we do that?
Yeah, so Shopify, I do all my sales through there. Unless you're local, I can meet up with you. So that's the best place to purchase. But follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, TikTok. We're on all the social media platforms. I usually try to post 2, 3, 4 times a week, show you what I'm working on. Yeah, so that's probably the best place to stay up to date with us, Instagram.
Uh, it's just Dust Bowl Falco. Awesome. Well, we'll get ready to close it out here, but before we do, I kind of want to hit you with a few rapid fire. I didn't tell you what I was going to ask you, but just we'll go quick. Just kind of
Okay,
one of these you've kind of already answered, but just what comes to mind. So, um, timber hunt or dry field,
Dryfield.
ducks or geese? I got to ask about that. What kind of geese do you guys getting out there? Like,
Mostly Canada's. A lot of lessers. Sometimes we'll get some good graders. Most of the graders are locals though.
yeah.
Not as many specs as I'd like, but
So out here we have the late season, the conservation season. Do you guys have that for your snow geese and everything? Okay, nice.
dude, I've never gone.
Yeah,
It's We don't have enough spots to really focus and hone in on them, but we have it.
yeah, yeah. It's funny as the years have gone on. When I first got into waterfowl hunting, the property that I was leasing, just absolutely was flooded with geese. And it's funny, I got into
Mm,
duck hunting, but I realized I'm shooting more geese than anything. And I really enjoyed that. But as you talk with other hunters and whatnot, that some folks are just like, yeah, I'm not a big like snow goose fan or whatnot. Like, so they're like, I'm not going to go out there and just to shoot them, you know.
yeah.
I like hearing that. Right on. How many calls do you have on your lanyard?
So I run four. I run two goose, two duck, and a whistle. So I guess five.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. What about what's the call on the lanyard that you actually never really use? Is there one on there or no?
I don't use a whistle as much as I used to.
Are you considered an overcaller or are you the silent killer?
Um,
What would
I
your
was
buddies say?
silent.
What would your buddies say?
Oh, I don't get their opinion on it.
Yeah,
It just depends on how they're responding. I usually try to be pretty conservative with the calling. It takes a lot less calling than you think to get some birds to commit.
for sure. 12 gauge or 20 gauge?
12. I want to move
Okay.
to a 20 though.
What kind of gun do you shoot?
Franke Affinity 3.
Nice. Yeah, so a 12 gauge, I shoot a Benelli Super Black Eagle, but this past season, through actually one of our banquets, through one of the conservation organizations, I got a Franke Affinity 320 gauge, and I finished my season with
Nice.
it, and I absolutely loved it. Yeah, so if you're thinking about going to 20, I recommend go. I don't know if you wanted to stick with the Affinity, but it's a fantastic gun.
How do you? So I was really eyeballing a Super Black Eagle 3. I mean, what's your comparison? What do you think?
I mean, they're in my opinion very similar, but um, I notice, and I'd have to kind of dive in, but like I feel like the you can feel like the more premium build in the Benelli, the Super Black Eagle versus the Affinity, if that makes sense. But um, it's tough to kind of do an even comparison because obviously, like the Franke, I really like how light it is, but obviously it's a smaller gun. So, but I try to keep everything the same. I shoot 26-inch barrels. They're
Mhm.
both inertia guns, so um, it's I've had no issues with them, you know. So I think if I'm being completely honest, I bought I've had a Benelli since my very first hunting gun was a Supernova, their pump action shotgun. But I think I obviously love
Yeah.
Benelli. It's a great product, but the Super Black Eagle, a handful of years ago, if I'm being completely honest, it was more kind of like everyone's got a Super Black Eagle. I need to get the Super Black Eagle 3, you know. And so, I
Yeah.
did it, but at the same time, and I wanted to make sure I was really into waterfowl hunting before you go out and just spend a couple grand or 2,500, on a shotgun. But for the listeners out there that are like, I can't spend $2,000, like the Franke's a good. It's not much cheaper, but it is.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
good offering
100%.
from Benelli too. Um,
Yeah.
so I just got a few more for you. The first thing that comes to mind, something unique in your blind bag.
Mm, probably camera.
Cool. Do you like record your hunts when you're out there? Are you talking about like video camera or just like
A DSLR. Mostly. I really enjoy like macro photography.
that's cool. Yeah, it's funny. A few years ago, I thought about like just during the off season, like getting into like the closed zones and some of like the actual like auto tour refuges and actually getting into like photography.
Mm.
Because some of the images that you see out there like are just absolutely amazing. Like birds in flight or
Oh
just them
yes.
roosting out there. And obviously I enjoy the hunting aspect because I get to put birds in the freezer. I enjoy eating them. I love sharing it with friends, family, all that. But at the same time, just I can go sit in a blind with a camera and just catch pictures of these things and just great photos. So that's really cool. Your favorite
Yeah.
snack in the blind?
Favorite snack in the blind.
Or what's your kind of go-to? You a jerky guy,
Probably
seeds?
jerky
Okay.
or like a Cliff Bar or something. Yeah,
Okay.
try to pack
Nice.
light. I'm
And
a I'm kind of a bum when it comes to snacks. Like kind of an inside joke with me and my buddies. I'll see them snacking on something like, "Hey man, what's that taste like?" And they all give me a hard time about it. But yeah. So if we share a blind, man, you bring snacks, you got to share.
you know what's funny this year? I really tried to get better at this, but some reason I always pack like I'm going hunting for 3 days. You know, like just too many snacks. And you're like, man, well, what if I'm out here for, 8 hours, and then, so you load the bag, and then whether it's because you've already limited out or the birds aren't flying, you seem to be back at the rig in no more than 3 hours or so. So, and even then, I'm like, I really didn't need a snack. I just had breakfast. So, but no, it's good to have. Last one I have.
Sure, I'm gonna sit by you if we ever get in a blind.
Yeah, no, for sure. Maybe I need to stop doing that, shed a few pounds here, but bucket list hunting trip. Just, I know you're busy, you got so many things going on, but, if you had a week or, during waterfowl season, where's somewhere you want to go?
Bucket list hunts, man. Probably Arkansas specs and then California cinnamon till.
Awesome. Cool. Have you ever come out? Have you been to California? Have you ever gone hunting out here?
Never have.
No. Okay.
No.
Well, yeah. If you make your way out here, let me know. We'd love to have you out here.
Yeah,
But
for sure. That'd be fun.
well, right on, man. Well, hey, I really appreciate you jumping on, coming on for the Fowlers, and it was a great conversation. Like I said, I've been following you. I heard you on another podcast, but I wish you the absolute best of luck with Dust Bowl, and yeah, we'll connect offline. I'll get my order in with you. But
Okay.
before we jump off here, just remind the folks one more time where they can follow you, find you, all that stuff.
Yeah. So you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, all at Dust Bowl Falco, as well as a Shopify store. Um, yeah. Or email. You can email me. I'll communicate anyway, whatever's convenient for the listeners. But we stay most active on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, Ty, thank you again, man. And for the listeners of For the Fowlers, please don't forget, rate and review and follow us on Instagram at For the Fowlers. And we'll chat with you soon.
Thanks for having me.